Black Behind the Chair. I'm Peppermint Petty,
I'm Impad.
And
and
I'm
we're
Kim
joined by
Babbitt. Oh, sorry, I messed that
Impad
up.
and I. Impad and I are two licensed cosmetologists who work with all hair textures. Historically, salons have been hubs for real talk, debates, advice, and yes, a little gossip. Now we're bringing those community conversations online. Our chairs hold more than just clients, they hold culture, trust, and tradition. So each episode, we dive into hot topics, current events, and salon stories, and we want to know your thoughts. So follow us at Black Behind the Chair on major platforms. Drop a comment. We'll follow you back. And if you love the show, make sure to share it with a friend. It's a best way to support us for free. And then if you've got something to say, you can text or call us at 470-713-5905. Ladies, one word to describe your hair today.
Big.
Yes. Yes. Awesome. About you, K about it.
Unruly.
Yes. Mine is magical, even though it looks a little rough.
Yes.
I silk pressed my bangs the other day. I have full curtain bangs right now. My shit is long as hell.
Oh my gosh.
I'll send you a picture. I took a picture. I'm like, this is
Yeah.
crazy. Yeah,
Your hair grows super
it's
So
fast.
insane.
sad.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what have you
Um,
guys been up to? I know what you've been up to. Hey, about it, because we just came back from the DR. I was so sad to come home.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. How was your guys' vacation?
It was amazing. I mean, I
It
can only speak
was,
Good.
for myself, but it was amazing.
yeah,
Worked
yeah,
on
yeah.
my
Always
tan.
amazing.
Yeah,
Yes.
you can't see it in this light, but my tan is like super glowy. I'm like really, really bronzy glowy.
Yes. Mine
Hell yeah.
too. Yes.
Hmm.
Love.
Yes.
Yeah.
I
I
do know
definitely,
purple is your guys' color.
yes,
Purple?
it was
Oh,
lavender. Yeah.
yeah. Lavender. Yeah.
Yes.
So we did a birthday dinner. And so the birthday girl got to choose the color for the birthday dinner. And it was lavender. Yeah.
Well,
So
so there's actually a story behind that
Okay.
because Vicky was like, "Oh, we should do yellow. We should do yellow," and I was like, "Well, we just did yellow, so absolutely
Yeah.
not." Uh, so Dre and I were like, "Well, why not a shade of purple?" And so we were like, "What? Lavender. All right, that works. That's a word everybody knows. We could have gotten to the weeds with orchid. You know what I'm saying, or
Yeah.
something."
love.
Yes. What have you been up to, Impad?
I just got back from Iowa today. My cousin got married, so
Oh,
we were up there for her wedding.
yeah.
Yeah, it
I
was
love a
great.
wedding. I cry
Yeah.
every time. I don't even have to know the people.
I
I cry.
did I did cry. I thought I wasn't going to, and then her her husband is just so cute. He like choked up during his vows and I was like, "Oh, here it
Got
comes."
him. Got
Yep,
him. I'm such a sucker for love.
you got me. Yeah. But other
Yeah.
than that, just like work and, surviving the days.
Yeah.
All we can do.
I always tell you that I don't really watch the news anymore. I stopped watching the news years ago because um, it just makes me more angry. Like I'm already kind of angry, and it just makes me more angry. And if I'm going to
Yeah,
be nice to people, I can't know every single detail of everything.
sure.
But it did come through while we were out of the country that we were dangerously close to nuclear war. Um, and while I'm not wishing nuclear war on anyone, I also wasn't going to be sad if we got stuck there. So yeah.
Heard. We'll have to talk about that like later on.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um
So what do we got this week?
Yeah, I put a lot of stuff down. We don't have to talk about everything. I was trying to like come up with how our topics were, like a more cleaner way to go about
Mm-hmm.
it. Um, so I've been thinking, because I know I wanted to start off with more like salon beauty talk industry first. I was thinking about the conversation that we had a few episodes ago where I was telling everyone about the one white hairstylist that was charging like $3,000 for hair. And
Extensions.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. And you had said, if you can charge that much, like do it. And I was still just like, I don't know, blah, blah, blah. So I figured
Mm-hmm.
out like why I was like so, because I agree, absolutely. If you can charge that, do it.
Mm-hmm.
I think
Mm-hmm.
my issue is going back was like, to me, this stylist is kind of doing basic hair. And not to say that like extensions isn't hard work, because I think
Mm-hmm.
it is, but
Mm-hmm.
I think it depends on the kind of extensions. And to me, to see this like white woman charging this other white woman like $3,000 for hair extensions, meanwhile, I see black hairstylists do amazing work and not even charging $500. I think that's where like like
Mm-hmm.
it was coming from, not saying that you shouldn't charge what you're worth, but I was just
Yeah.
like, well, why is this stylist who's like, to me, kind of
Yeah.
doing basic ass work, and
Yeah.
meanwhile this other stylist isn't even charging like a quarter of that.
Yeah.
But
And
at
I
the end of the day, racism.
I would say
always.
like racism and like also like culture, because I would say that like especially like amongst like middle and upper class white people, like they, you know what I'm saying, like they're like, oh, like I did pay a lot of money for this basic, style or whatever, versus us, we're like, I got this amazing glamorous look and $20. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
like,
Hmm.
I think there's a certain like cultural aspect to it. And then of course everything is racist. So I mean you have to look at the economic status of the people who, can leverage, to, and not that black people don't spend a lot of money on hair, but also, you know, I
Yeah.
think that $3,000 is going to be spent over the course of a few months versus, all in one
One
wash.
shot. That's true.
Yeah.
That is
Yes.
true. That is
Yes.
true. And I think too, and I think I said this last time too, that we have cosmetologists in general have been undercharging for decades.
Hmm.
And I don't know what, I think it's because we tend to be kind of caretaker, nurturer personality types. We're always like, oh, I don't want to charge too much. I don't, we feel
Hmm.
bad about charging appropriately.
Hmm.
Um, but at the end of the day, having your hair done is not a need. You're not going to die if you don't get to go to the salon and get your hair done.
Yeah.
So I am a one woman crusade for all hairstylists to raise their prices today.
Hmm.
Today. Because if you can't afford it, say that. But don't tell me that I'm charging too much because you can't afford to pay me. You
Hmm.
know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
yeah. No, but you're right. I mean, you're right. Like I do see plenty of very basic, in my opinion, basic hairstyles that people are paying god tons of money for, and people still are trying to get like knotless braids for '90s prices. Like,
Mhm,
absolutely
mhm.
not. The days
Sure.
of getting your hair braided for 8 hours for $65 are long gone, toots.
Well,
Like
and I think
nobody's.
too, the more that I'm thinking about it and the more like I'm hearing your guys's discussions about it too, I'm just like, I'm also like a little peeved that I have a feeling that a lot of, and not to put that stereotype out there, but I have a feeling that in most like black salons, if a white person were to walk in there, I'm gonna say maybe at least 80% of the time they could do something with their hair. They might need to be like, let me think about it, but we're gonna hook you up. I don't really see that happening when you have like predominantly white salons. And then I guess too, because I've worked in predominantly white salons that charge so much money, but you can't do everyone's hair. So
Yeah.
why are you charging
Yeah.
these prices?
Well, so
Yeah.
another thing would be that, like, for every amazing black stylist that is working at a salon that has a license, all this other stuff, there is a woman in her kitchen who is equally as competent, maybe not licensed, but equally as competent and can do the most amazing and beautiful work. And that white people don't have that same culture of hair that we do, like at all. So there is not, a Brittany in her kitchen, you know what I'm saying, hooking up weaves in the same way that you're going to get a black woman that's going to be able to do that. Like your sister, cousin, brother's baby mama knows how to do hair. Somebody knows how to do hair. So I think that, like, that makes it so that the market is more saturated. Whereas for like white people, and if white people knew the level of like care and how much they could get if they actually went to a black stylist, they probably would go, and black women would be able to be like, well, I'm about to gentrify these prices too.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Hashtag gentrify the prices.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but
For real.
something that you said earlier too is I think also for white women that paying $3,000 to get your hair done is a flex. That you can do that. Never mind that it sounds crazy. You
Right.
know what I mean? But like
Mhm.
that's a flex.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just thinking of like I I'm sure you guys have heard like that The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives that's on Hulu. And
Yeah.
one of the girls, she's a hairstylist. And again, not to say that her work isn't beautiful because I've seen some of it. Some of it looks very lovely. Others I'm like, what happened there? But okay, all right.
Whatever.
And I'm just like, and now that she has the show, obviously her hair business is growing and expanding and all that. And I'm just like, again, though, I don't see any other woman other than like white going into your salon. I will say
Yeah.
there is one, I think she's biracial or she's just a light skinned black woman on the show. But like she has always, gotten her hair relaxed and has these like heavy ass extensions in there. And it's like, girl, can your
Mhm.
hair even breathe?
Yeah.
And then they do her dirty on the camera work because there's literally a shot where she's out at breakfast with her boyfriend or whatever, and it's like a shot like this, and literally her hair splits, and you can see her.
Like I know damn well y'all saw that.
Yes. And it's like we
Yeah,
couldn't
that's
re-edit
crazy.
that to where we didn't see that.
Yeah,
Also,
that's
I
crazy.
haven't. Oh no, I was gonna say. I guess that maybe that is their little shtick because they have done that with like other girls on the
Mhm.
show. But again, like I said, there's an active hairstylist, and she's
Mhm.
just like, "That's your work, babe."
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, black women in Hollywood have like long talked about the fact that like they would either have to do their own hair or bring their own stylist.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
know that on these reality shows, especially Secret Lives of More, because I had to Google it, see what she looked like.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know, I know they probably can't even find a black stylist in the area, let alone them having the forethought to actually bring somebody in. They like,
Right.
nah,
Well, and especially
we'll
not
get
in
this.
Mormonism, because
Right.
Mormonism is so racist anyway.
Right. But they have
Um,
this whole like concept of like being perfect. But I guess if you're black, you don't have to be perfect. You can just be all right.
Yeah. It was just like, what
I
is going on?
I know for me as a black woman, I was just telling one of my clients the other day that as a hairstylist, I'm clear on how difficult it is to find a good hairstylist, like that good to me, right? You respect my time, like I can afford your prices. It's hard. If I'm looking for a hairstylist, the last person I'm looking for is a white woman. I do not want a white woman's hands in my hair. No offense to white people, I mean, whatever. But
Yeah.
I personally don't want a white woman doing my hair. For me, having my hair done is like a sacred thing. And I just don't want that kind of energy in my hair. I just don't.
Absolutely.
So it doesn't even, but not only that, but it doesn't even bother me when white women refuse to do black women's or black people's hair, because again, I don't want you doing my hair anyway. But like when Kay brought up, like there's a whole movement in the industry. I think it's called like Black on Set. And it's just basically all about like hairstylists having the proper hair and makeup artists on set to be able to do black hair, black makeup. Um, and my concern, I brought this up before when I'm having this conversation in those rooms, that my concern is if we teach white women how to do black hair, that there'll be no need to hire black people to do black hair and makeup. You know what I mean? So yeah. And they don't want to pay us the same thing that they pay everyone else. Like it's just a whole shit show.
Hmm.
So I don't really care that white women don't know how to do black hair personally.
Sure.
Because I wasn't going in anyway. And I want there to be jobs for black people in cosmetology. Um, so my refrain in that fight would be hire black people to do that work rather than teaching white people how to do that work. That's just me.
Yeah.
Like, and if they want to look over our shoulder and learn some things so that they can help. But white people, if they don't do nothing else, they gonna colonize. And I just don't want them colonizing that art form. It's not yours.
Hmm.
you know.
Yeah. Yeah. I think like, I guess for me, I totally get that, and 100%. Like, I don't think if you don't want any white woman touching your hair, absolutely not.
Yeah.
Um, I guess like, again, just me personally, because I've worked in white salons,
Mhm.
it does like, it frustrates me to, and not that I'm like in a salon like that now, but definitely my old salon,
Mhm.
to have some of these women charge the way that they charge. And there was a black stylist that I worked with, Shelly, I love you, um
Mhm. Mhm.
that should have been probably the highest paid, in my opinion,
Mhm.
stylist, because
Mhm.
anyone could sit down in that woman's chair and she could do it.
Mhm.
But because she did cosmetology a little later in her life, so like she didn't have the years, even though, like you were saying earlier, Kay, about it, hair in black culture is such a big thing. Like, and she's a black woman. She's been doing hair since she was probably born, and she has a daughter. So she was always doing her hair. And I just always think of like that snotty stylist that I used to work with that charged a shit ton of money, but freaked out when it was a little black girl with locks that was coming in. And
Mhm.
then it was all of a sudden you don't know how to do hair.
Mhm.
And so
Mhm.
to me, I agree. Do I think every white stylist is going to be able to like install locks, do like intricate braid work? Absolutely not. But I think like for me again, if a black person were to walk into a salon and just asked for like a trim or
Yeah.
even a simple like blowout,
Yeah.
and you
You
can't
should be able to
even
do a
you should
basic
be able
style.
to do that.
Basic
Yeah.
services.
It's
Yeah.
it's kind
No,
of what
for
I
sure.
yeah, it's kind of what I'm
Yeah.
saying. Cuz like
Yeah.
even though I'm
No, for
talking all
sure.
this stuff, like I know me personally,
Yeah.
I'm not the best braider. Like I
Mhm.
would love to be, and like we are working our way, but I would not go out there and say like, "Oh yeah, like come to me
Mhm.
for all these intricate braids." And
Yeah.
I just found out recently that this really popular braider that I follow on, well, I think she's popular on Instagram, like she's not even licensed. And
Is
she's
it the white
doing,
girl in St. Louis?
no, she's black. She's a black woman that she moved down to New Orleans, I think.
Okay.
But she was up here and I mean, does phenomenal work.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and she's going to cosmetology school, thank heavens. But I was just like, oh, girl, you should
Yeah.
be charging like gold for this work.
Mhm.
Like, it's so
And I feel like
amazing.
she
And
could still. I don't know about in Missouri or in New Orleans, but in Georgia, you don't have to be licensed to braid. You can braid right now. You can basically do anything with natural black hair except relax. You can't relax, color, or cut.
can't do like chemicals.
Yeah, anything else though you can do, and you don't have to be licensed in the state of Georgia. And I know people were
It's like
fighting
that for
against.
Missouri too.
Yeah, and I know people are fighting against that. I was at the courthouse last year also fighting against it. But the more that I think about it, the more I just feel like, you know what? Should there maybe be a requirement to take like sanitation and disinfection, learning how to like not spread communicable diseases? Yes. But should you have to, for those services, not including chemicals and cutting, for those services, should you have to go to cosmetology school, take out student loans, spend a year or more? Um, you know what? The state can get out of our fucking pocket.
Mhm.
You know what I'm
Well,
saying? So I think I felt one way about it at the time that I was at the state house protesting it. And the more that I've given it thought, I'm like, I don't know that that's necessarily a bad thing.
well, licensing is like both racist and like like it drives capitalism in the sense of like for white people because white people can afford the licensing. Like black women have been braiding hair since they were in elementary school. But these white women can go and they can get the licensing. And so if they, if you have to have a certain amount of licensing and hours and it costs money and there's barriers, then you're already starting to cut out black women and or putting them in harm's way of fines, up into leading to imprisonment, especially given our current circumstances. So
Mhm.
yeah, I mean it would be nice, or like as in like I've had little like side hustle jobs where you've had to get some cleaning safety thing or whatever, and it's literally like a 20-minute course on on an app or something.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Right. And I know over in the UK, you don't have to be licensed to be a cosmetologist.
At all?
I don't think
Even for
so.
chemicals? That's wild.
I don't think so. I'll have to, when my boss or my owner is on, because her boyfriend lives over in the UK, and she's
Mhm.
trying to go over there. And I believe she was telling us like, yeah, you don't need to be licensed. I think it's more of like uh in a like an assistant program or like something
Or
like that.
apprenticeship. Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
hmm Yeah. And I do love the apprenticeship. You know, I have an apprentice. And she's about 2,000, a little over 2,000 hours into a 3,000 hour um, course. And I love the apprenticeship because it enables you to be doing hair literally from day one. Like you
Mhm.
can be still making money while you're working towards earning an education. But I think like we just no longer live in a world where people can afford to not work. You know what I'm saying? And like I know when I went to cosmetology school 30 years ago, I was able to live in government subsidized housing and get food stamps and and beauty school was $7,000, not almost 30,000 like it is now. So I was able to, have assistance while I went to school, graduate with no student loan debt. We just don't live in that world anymore.
Mhm.
And I don't see us coming out of that anytime soon. We're certainly not headed back to what it was, then.
Mhm.
Um, so I feel like, how can we reimagine what that looks like? Like, because at the end of the day, and you know this, when you have someone who loves you doing their hair, like, it doesn't matter if there's 70,000 people that can also do hair and don't have a license. If they want you to do their hair, they want you to do their hair. They will
Mhm.
follow you to the ends of the earth and pay you whatever you ask for. They'll give you their firstborn child. Just
Right.
please still do my hair,
Yeah,
you know.
absolutely.
Um, so yeah.
Yes. Ah, that was a good conversation.
Yeah. Before, because I know you've got stuff, but I happen to remember what I was trying to add to the list.
Yeah.
When Kay Bowdit was talking about licensing and it being racist and rules and all of that, I was reminded, you remember a few episodes ago, we talked about Adriana Smith, the Black woman here in Georgia who, first of all, she was pregnant. She was turned away from the hospital multiple times. She's a nurse also.
Mhm. Mhm.
Turned away from the hospital multiple times. She ended up dying. The state of Georgia kept her body alive on machines until so that she could basically serve as an incubator for her baby. The baby was born over our break. I believe they named him Chance. He didn't even weigh 2 pounds. Last that I knew, the baby was still alive, but of course he's in NICU. They pulled the plug on her birthday. Um, yeah, so I just wanted to circle back because we were talking about laws and controlling Black bodies. So I wanted to circle back to that and just give an update on her.
Yeah, absolutely. I know I did. I think I did have her in the lineup
Okay,
because
I'm
for sure.
sorry.
No, no, no. You're good. You're good. Because yeah, definitely did want to bring her up and talk about that.
Mhm.
And also, if I heard correctly, like they had to do a C-section because her body
Mhm.
was literally like decaying. And I was curious how this was all going to play out because I was telling a guest of mine about it, a white man who's in like the science world. And
Mhm.
I don't think he had heard about it, and he was very like, "How are they doing that?" And I'm like, "Do you know where you are, sir?"
Force,
Um,
fraud, and coercion.
yeah, yeah, and I was like, again, I'm not a doctor, but I couldn't imagine anything with no brain activity like that being good.
No heart activity.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're trying to kick off
Unless
the zombie apocalypse.
oh my God, I was just gonna say, unless we were like in some like zombie apocalypse dystopian world where like maybe the cordyceps took over the body, then maybe. But I can tell you it's not gonna be like a regular baby coming out. Yeah, that's very fucked up. And it's just disgusting.
Yeah. I was trying to see if I can find any like new news on it because I'm like you. Last I heard, the baby was out. The worst part about it is like the family is going to be stuck paying for like the medical care, not only for Adriana, but also for Chance, where as long as he's in the
And the
NICU. So
NICU.
not only do they run an experiment, but they're also charging the family for it.
The family that never asked for any of this.
None of it.
Yeah.
Which is insane.
Yep.
Because did she have a partner
Yeah, she's
or a
married.
husband? Okay.
Yeah,
Do
she's
we know
married.
like what he was saying? Like, was he?
He and her mother both just, they didn't want it. They were very vocal in that they did not, like, not that they didn't want the baby, but that they didn't want her kept alive for the purpose of the baby. Like, that if this is God's will, this is God's will, and like not to interfere in the hospital. The Georgia is I think in Georgia it's like once you get past 6 weeks, the fetus has more rights or whatever. Is it even a fetus at 6 weeks?
Right.
That the fetus has rights, and yeah,
More
and
rights
they
over
apparently
than like
override the people
a
that have to pay
husband?
the bill. Yeah,
Yeah, it's called
apparently.
Georgia's Life Act, and it
Yeah,
bans abortion after cardiac activity is detected.
yeah,
So, yeah,
yeah. So as soon as there's a heartbeat, yeah,
yeah. But, there's that one. I don't remember if it was like Florida or Georgia or Texas, but one of them states, it was like a representative that like knew the governor was able to like, I think they had like an ectopic pregnancy, but because they knew the governor, they were able to make a phone call and get their abortion. But on the other hand, a person who has passed has to hold
Mm-hmm.
on their family and then pay the bills. Like I feel like they should just, if nothing else, like the hospital, the state of Georgia, whoever the hell, y'all owe that money because we didn't ask for none of this. We said no.
Yeah.
well, and not just the money for the bills, but like I know for me, if I have a family member in the hospital, laying in a hospital bed, under those circumstances, like there's a baby in there, now I feel like I should be at the hospital. I should be
Right,
talking to the baby, you know what I mean? So I can't go to work. I can't, you know what I mean? Like you just
Mhm.
held this family hostage,
right,
and then you're going to stick them with all these bills on top of it all. And they're cutting Medicaid, and they're cutting all the assistance. Like it just, you want the babies here so you can what, starve them out? Like I just
right.
don't understand
Literally.
where we're going with this.
They
Mm-hmm.
don't know either.
Yeah,
That's so disgusting.
yeah, yep.
And like, I can only imagine, like, what if we're a white woman?
Mhm.
I mean, I don't really feel like they're safe either. I just feel like, it's being made, it's being normalized. You know what I'm saying? They're just further down on the cannon fodder, but they're not out of line.
Oh, for
Mhm.
sure.
Mhm.
And I
100%.
even think more so for them because, like, if it works, you know what I'm saying, then now they know that, they can incubate white babies in corpses and they don't have to be replaced by, all the blacks and the,
They saw Get Out and they were like,
Latinos.
you know what, Jordan Peele, you were onto something. You were onto
Mhm.
something.
Yeah, so
Mhm.
yeah, it was definitely an experiment, and yeah, it doesn't preclude white women. It's just they wanted to test it out on somebody else first.
Yep.
Well, and that was really just to like, I have so many white women that watch like The Handmaid's Tale, and they would always be so shocked when they would ask like, "Oh, are you watching that?" I'm like, "No." And they're like, "Why?" And I'm like, "Aren't we kind of like in it
Living it.
already? Like, aren't we in the prequel stage for it? Like,
They
what do you
need the
mean?"
costumes. They need the costumes,
Literally,
and
literally.
they literally need somebody like doing the things. It's not fascism or any of the other things until like all the metrics are there and somebody's like
Someone has
beating
to
the
officially declare it.
yeah. They need a document stating it, mailed to their house, first class. Like until then, they're just like, we're rushing towards it. Like, no, it's here.
It's here.
Here.
Well, and I've
Mhm.
told a few women that like say that. I'm like, well, we were like performing sterilizations on women down in the ICE detention centers, back when it was Trump's first time in the office,
Yeah.
and performing hysterectomies without consent. And they were like, what? We were? It's like, yeah, we were. And the only reason we know about it is because a Black woman nurse came out and whistle blew. And I don't think we ever figured out her name, but I think about her all the time, and I hope she is safe and out of the country, just living her best life.
Yeah.
Because our gut, like,
Word.
and we're paying taxes still. Like, ugh, I'm just
Right. Right.
Yep.
this makes me want to beat my head against the wall repeatedly.
Not my head, but somebody's. Yeah.
Somebody's head.
Yeah. Cause well, for me,
Word.
sometimes I feel like I'm going like insane. Cause I
Mhm.
know I can be a little more like radical and intense than the average American. But I'm just like, but at what point do you get angry? Like, at what point do you say, like, yeah, maybe this isn't how we should be doing this?
I feel like if you're not angry right now, you never will be angry.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you're just like you're fine with it.
Yes.
We
Right.
had a conversation. So I'm leaving. I've been renting a chair in a salon for the last 3.5 years. And I'm leaving. The time has come to move on. I'm grateful to the Black woman that owns the salon for giving me the space, all of that. But like, I don't fit in because I'm gonna say something. I'm gonna say something.
Hmm.
So the other day, I guess it was yesterday. Today's Sunday, so it must have been no, yeah, yesterday or Friday. Um, Bezos's wedding came up in the salon, and Brittany was doing. Sorry, I'm gonna beep her name out because she doesn't. I don't want to have her name in here, but another stylist was working on color on a client, and it was me and my client, who happened to be a white man, um, who brought it up kind of in passing. It was just like Bezos can shut down half of Italy for his wedding, but like we can't afford to buy eggs, kind of a thing. But that woman latched onto that, and apparently she's a Bezos fan. Like, she's been watching all of the coverage, and like a conversation around capitalism ensued, and they're like all like loving capitalism, and like, if you can't afford to, basically, if you can't afford to what's the word, like when you're taking advantage of your workers, right? Exploit. If you can't afford to
Exploitation.
exploit people, yeah, if you can't afford to exploit people, then you need to step your shit up, basically, was the conversation that they're having. And I'm just like, I have got to get the fuck out of here. I've
Yeah,
got to get out of here.
sounded like some
uh,
White Lotus ish.
huh?
It sounded like some White Lotus ish.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
crazy. And so somebody said something about being smart. And I'm like, well, you know, you can be rich and not be smart. Look at Elon. And that lady lost her shit. They took her out of the room because they already know I'm not the one. They took her to the other side of the salon and finished her up because it was about to get litty in there.
Oh
Okay.
my God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
But I just
time.
can't imagine, like, imagine having the biggest hard on for fucking Elon Musk. Ugh,
But yeah.
disgusting.
Yeah. Very gross.
But
It shows how much they actually worship like money. Like you're
Mhm.
worshiping because you don't care about like his character, what type of person he really is. Like you can see the things that he says and knows that he's not intelligent. No, your worship is of the dollar. Like the fact that he's rich.
mm,
That's it. You don't care
Yeah,
about nothing else.
that's literally it.
yep.
That's literally it. But shout out to Italy for protesting that disgusting display of capitalism.
Hell yeah.
That was dope. That was
Love to
dope. I
see
saw a
it.
big ass sign that said if you can afford to buy, not buy Italy, if you, whatever it was, if you can afford like this extravagant wedding, you can afford to pay taxes. And
Yeah,
I think that's
absolutely.
dope. I like it. I like it.
I
Well, and we
agree.
know, billionaires only donate to charities so they can do a tax write-off or whatever.
Hmm.
Like,
But these
Yeah.
billionaires don't even do that well. You know,
right.
like there was like a culture of billionaires, you know, giving us things, giving us culture, giving us art centers, museums, and the
Mhm.
works. But these billionaires are giving us social trauma through their social media apps and a dictator. Like, sit
Yeah.
down.
Mhm.
You're not
Mhm.
even
Word.
contributing anything meaningful to the world while you're actually destroying it.
Yeah.
Literally. Literally. Yeah, I was
Like,
just
can we get
thinking
some
like,
balance?
what has Jeff Bezos like contributed? Yeah.
That was deafening.
Yeah. So it's just like, and then I just can't help but think like, how much money is at this wedding? Like we can probably know how much it costs, but like all the guests going, like, how much what money is at this fucking wedding?
Hmm.
Like, what are y'all
Well,
talking about? What are you doing?
they're doing P. Diddy stuff.
Yeah. Literally diddling each other. Literally. Yep.
Yeah,
It's gross.
I always think like, when it comes to media, and I mean even with stuff like this, and maybe it's because like I've never been rich or like anything. I couldn't imagine having that much money and this is what you're doing with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
I can't imagine having that much money.
yeah, absolutely. Like I
End
can't
of,
even
like
imagine
end
having
of
that
that
much
is the end
money.
of the yeah.
Yeah, but then it's
Yeah.
like,
So
okay, well, you
expensive.
have all this money and what are you doing with it?
Yeah.
Because you can't take it with you when you're dead.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they get like a sense of like pleasure from like hoarding is one of their kinks. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
they're not like, oh, okay, well, I have so much money, I don't know what to do with. They're like, it makes me feel good to have this much money and to be able to enjoy this amount of privilege.
Not have
And you
anything.
cannot.
Yeah.
You cannot go to the dentist. You can't afford your diabetes medication. You can't get eggs this month. Like they're like, sucks to be you.
Yeah.
Literally. Have you guys seen that meme? And it's like, God, they say God gives his strongest battles to his, strongest soldiers or whatever. And it's like, well, I would like to see what I would do with some money. So let's do that.
Seriously.
Okay. Well, did we want to talk any more about salon culture, beauty industry? We kind of went into the pop culture into politics. So,
I have a question.
yeah.
that I've wanted to, and I don't know if you guys have covered it, but I just have wanted to ask, like beauticians, their thoughts on this. Like, what do you think, like the ethics of like real human hair, and like one, just like the industry in and of itself is very exploitative and everything, and then two, like a lot of people who would be like spiritual practitioners, people like that would be like, you're literally putting someone else's hair like either into or on your hair, and like, but also on the flip side of that, like a lot of the synthetics are now being shown to like cause cancer. So like, what is a woman to do? The ethics of like real human hair versus like exposing yourself to carcinogens.
Yeah, I know that there is a newer hair company that they are plant-based. I haven't experienced with them. I would love to, because I'm very curious about that. Because it sounds like how that's being made is like kind of the shreds of like coconut and like peelings of bananas, I think, or like some kind of plant. So I'm curious like how that would work out. Um yeah, I think for me personally, why I've feel like maybe I haven't like dove into extensions is because a lot of times you don't know where the hair is coming from. Um and I know Chris, was it Chris Rock that did a documentary on the
Yeah, good
on,
hair. Yeah.
yeah.
Mhm. Yep.
And I mean, I know me personally, I've always heard like horror stories of women walking around in other countries with long hair and someone literally goes up behind them and like chops their ponytail off and like runs away with it. And there was that one. Did you guys ever see that movie that came out on Hulu? And it was about the black woman going and getting weave put in, and it turns out like the hair was haunted. And so like yeah, it was very cheesy, but like
Uh-huh.
with a little bit more money and like a little
Yeah.
more in the writer's
Is it
studio.
concept?
I saw the vision. I saw the vision.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um
Let's see.
but
Got it.
yeah, but yeah, I think like yeah, I think that could definitely be better. And I know like for, our type of hair, it's a lot of times it's Asian hair that's just getting permed. Like so it's
Mhm.
not even like your actual hair type.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
sorry that was my little rant on it.
Yeah. I mean, I love that we're in a space where we're definitely moving more towards women just wearing their natural hair and just being happy with what they have. Um, Certainly, if you want to wear weave, I think you should wear weave. I think whatever women do with their hair is their prerogative, so no judgment there. But that is a valid concern. And I just think like there's so much natural, like human hair weave out there. Like, where is it coming from? Where is it coming from? Because there's so much. Like, where is it coming from? Is there an island out there where they're literally just like captive people growing? I just don't know where all this hair is coming from. And I would be concerned with putting like hair that was gotten in a traumatic way, like putting that on my hair. Because, like I said earlier, I think that you're exchanging energy, like your brain is right there, you know. So I'd be concerned about putting hair on my head that was, gotten in a way that's not ethical. Um, yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know.
I definitely am not like, judging women's, beauty or fashion choices. And I
Yeah,
definitely, I think at any point in history, like women were going to be braiding or weaving something into their heads to, adorn
yeah,
themselves. Like,
yeah.
and there is no way that any of it, like even if it's like a farm with people just growing their hair, like Dre could be a hair grower. He could just be sitting somewhere growing hair, cutting it off every 2 years. You know what I'm saying? He's got a
Mhm.
24-inch bust down, but
Mhm.
I doubt that's the situation. I'm sure any way that it's being harvested, there's trauma involved, and
No,
so
there's trauma involved because that's
yeah,
where
so
we are
I
in
just I just think
history.
it's something that that we should be like a conversation we can be having as we're moving towards alternatives, as
Mhm.
we're like, is the reason why it causes cancer because it's petroleum based, or are there other chemicals that they're adding to it that make it cancerous for the synthetic hair. So I think they're just questions that I'm just interested in personally, even
Mhm.
though I haven't worn anybody else's hair in a long time.
Yeah.
When I first heard about the popular like synthetic hair coming out and with the cancer, it's not only that, but also like certain very popular relaxer brands have also like been linked to that. And it just has me thinking, ooh, there's a good documentary. I'll have to think of the name of it, but it talks about, again, it all comes down to racism. It talked about like the Johnson and Johnson lawsuits and like with the talc powder leading to cancer and all that stuff. And they were talking about, who's more likely to buy the baby powder. It's black and brown people in poor um areas. And I want to say for a short period, I don't know the rules anymore, but for a short period, it got banned in the US because of it was causing cancer, but it was still being allowed with the old formula that was causing cancer, was still being able to distribute in other countries, predominantly black, brown, and poor.
Mhm.
Um, and that to me is disgusting. And now cuz Johnson and Johnson is greedy, they pretty much like filed bankruptcy. So even if you were to have issues with the baby powder, you can't like sue Johnson and Johnson anymore cuz they have
Mhm.
now broken off and done like their own little LLC or some shit. And so
Mhm.
now anything that's tied to that like can't be tied to this it's very shady. And
Yeah.
I'm just like, how are you still able to like run a company? Like, how is this even
Yeah.
still allowed to do
Yeah.
this?
Yeah. I mean, I think just because laws were never supposed to benefit the people. But I wanted to go back to the relaxer causing cancer because this is an important conversation, and I'm sure we won't spend a lot of time on it today. But and I think we've talked about it before. But um, when you look at, because there's a huge lawsuit happening right now around like relaxers causing cancer and fibroids and all kinds of things. Scientifically, it's not possible for relaxers to cause cancer. Relaxer is what? Sodium hydroxide. It's salt and like water and oxygen that like chemically is come together to like change the structure of your hair. At most, from a relaxer, you can get a really, really bad burn at worst. It's not causing cancer. The reason that lawsuit is where that comes from is that they're lumping relaxers in with like the Brazilian blowouts and the keratin treatments, and a
Oh,
lot of those contain formaldehyde. That's where that misinformation is coming from, and Benjamin Crump is pissing me off because, and again, like I don't even do relaxers
yeah.
because I just don't want to put relaxer on anyone's head. But also I think it's important to be honest about what's happening. So Yeah, Brazilian. And in fact, Brazilian Blowout just came out with a new and improved, like, formaldehyde-free formula. I don't know how true that is,
Mm,
but I don't do Brazilian Blowouts either because I'm like, I don't want to actually be in an enclosed environment inhaling formaldehyde, you
yeah,
know,
absolutely.
let alone like rubbing it into somebody's scalp.
Hmm.
But yeah, they're lumping relaxers in with keratin treatments that contain formaldehyde, and they're just not the same thing chemically. They don't have the same effect on the hair or the scalp or anything. So I just wanted to clear that up.
I think, and now that I'm thinking about it, I think like I subconsciously lumped in because when you would go to like the old like Sally's or beauty stores and they're the box relaxers, wouldn't they
Mhm.
say like formaldehyde free
I
on
don't
there?
know.
Or am I
No,
imagining that?
no. So I think what you're talking about, lie versus no lie
Oh,
relaxers.
yeah, yep,
Yeah,
yep.
yeah, yep,
That's it. Never mind.
yep.
Because
Yeah,
I was like, well, I think that's why I associated because on the box it
yeah,
was saying, but no, it's lie.
yeah.
Yep,
It's lie. Yep,
that is
yep. And
it.
there is like, I'm 30 years post cosmetology school, so I don't remember all the details, but it seems like lye is a little bit stronger, but again, is a natural compound, right? It's strong. It's a lot of it stronger than the no lye relaxer. And lye, actually, of the two, the lye based relaxer is actually the healthiest in terms of application. But you need to know your stuff because you're gonna burn your scalp off. You don't know what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely are gonna burn your scalp off. So you might end up with like alopecia because you've damaged your follicles, but you're not gonna end up with cancer.
It's so because I was like, lye is like what they use to like decompose bodies too, right?
Mhm,
It is
mhm,
interesting.
mhm.
It's really interesting that they use our love of like beauty and smelling good and looking nice
Mhm.
to just like to,
Yep.
but with Tyrona, it's like they trying to like what's going
Yeah,
on?
yeah, yeah. I might
Yeah.
have to do a little
No,
deep dive on
yeah.
that.
Yep.
Interesting. Well, and to go back with like the hair and like the ethics of it, because you guys know I love a good TV show and movie, and I watched 911, and there's an episode where this woman is like in the salon and she calls 911 and she's like telling the dispatcher like my stylist is hurting me, like send someone. So they send someone, and the lady's like in her chair and she's just like scratching her head, and they're like, hey, like what's going on? And the stylist is like trying to like get in there and like help her, but anytime the stylist goes near her, she's like, no, stay away from me, like you did this to me, like blah blah blah. And so the EMTs are getting in there and she had just gotten extensions done. Well, this was during it was supposed to be during lockdown of COVID.
So you're not even
And
supposed to be there.
right, not even supposed to be there. And it was one of those clients that like I have to get my hair color, I have to get my extensions, like blah blah blah. And so the stylist did it well to get the hair because shipping wasn't really a thing during lockdown. They fucking got tracks from a morgue.
That's disgusting.
And the reason why she was in pain was because fucking maggots were in her head. Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like the stylist didn't see the maggots when she was sewing that shit in.
Well, I think they tried to play it like it was eggs in there and they just hatched like yeah. And I was
Disgusting.
like, that's really gross.
Disgusting. But if you would have been at home, that wouldn't have happened to you. Just saying.
Mhm. Mhm.
What do you need, what I'm saying, extensions for? You're supposed to be in the house.
Can't nobody see you, ho.
I mean, but do you guys remember when people were literally protesting outside their capitals saying, like, I need my
Yeah.
hair done, open the salons? It's
had
like,
to
girl,
block
shut
numerous
up.
clients because they were blowing my phone up trying to come to my house. Like,
It
bitch,
is not that
no.
serious. It is not that serious. Also, I'm sure everyone knows you're not a natural blonde. So,
Yeah.
like, please calm down.
Yeah.
Also, if you're like in your 50s or 60s, you know, not to say everyone at that age, but like I would assume maybe a gray hair or two. And that's fine. That's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's literally a virus going around.
Yeah. That will kill you.
Yes.
It
And
will kill you.
thinking like looking back on it, I always think like no way would we survive a zombie apocalypse. You literally have bitches out here trying to get their hair done.
Yeah.
Ugh,
Yep.
humans
So
disgusting.
sad.
Mm. Okay, so
Yeah.
I know you put on about Miss Shirley in the CPS situation. Is that little girl that like does the
Yes, the boots
dancing?
on the ground girl. She's so cute. Um, so I don't remember exactly where my mind was. That must have been weeks ago that I put that on there. I think that, and maybe was that you, Kay, about it that I was talking with? So apparently, people have called CPS on that woman because she's been taking her daughter to perform at like really inappropriate places, like putting her in like. So I'll say this before I say what I'm going to say, that I don't care what a child is wearing. A child is not sexy. Like there's not, you like, children are not sexy.
Yeah.
Children are children, no matter what they're wearing. But I guess the mom's been putting her in like very tight fitting clothes and heels and like making her look very grown up, and then taking her to perform in places like strip clubs, or like taking her to perform for adults in adults only spaces. And somebody called CPS and they came and took her baby away.
Oh.
Um, and so maybe the larger thing is, about, again, capitalism and exploitation,
Mm-hmm.
labor exploitation, but this is her own child. And just kind of, maybe we're in a space and time where social media is like everything to some people. Even people with fully formed frontal cortexes can't seem to like separate social media from reality. You know what I'm saying? And so, yeah, she got a little bit social media famous and lost her shit, and they took her baby away.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, so there was not. I think I don't know if this woman was like for or against Miss Shirley and her mom or whatever, but she was saying that like I think with like the advent of social media, it's more in your face. You're seeing it. It's you know what I mean. Like but this is it. Name a child star. Like Michael Jackson got his
Yeah,
start in adult only spaces. Like they were going
yeah.
and they were performing. So I mean,
You're right. You're right.
so I think it's like, I mean, it's not something I would necessarily recommend. And
Mhm.
are we, was she truly in danger? What should any star ever, you know what I mean? Like there's kids who are going to be like actors and actresses, and they're going to be in adult only movies, very, racy subjects, you know what I'm saying? So I feel like the line can get kind of blurred. And I think like
Mm.
calling yes on that woman was maybe a step too far, because I don't
Okay.
think there was like she's fed, she's clothed. I think the bar for calling CPS needs to be, and especially
Mm.
so many cases that go unseen that are children are actually in imminent danger. I don't know if this needed to be CPS. It should have been a conversation.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. No, that's very valid.
And I was
Very
gonna say
valid.
too, because I think I've seen a few of her videos pop up. And to me, I want to say she was definitely. I think one I saw she was like in a park or like it was definitely like a more open, there were other kids there. Those were the videos that I had seen, and I felt like clothing dress wise, like I thought
Is
she was
appropriate.
appropriate for a kid.
Mhm.
Like to me, she was covered. And I remember seeing, because you know, I'm not a parent. But I remember seeing there was this like comparison of how young Black girls are treated based on like how they look, what they wear, compared to like other little like white girls. And it was literally like a picture of a white girl, or a little white girl and a little Black girl, and they literally had on the same clothing.
Mhm.
But the comments under the little Black girl was, oh, she looks grown, she looks too adult, like why are her parents dressing her like that, blah blah blah. Meanwhile, under the little white girls, it was like, oh my god, she looks so cute, like this is such a cute little outfit for a little kid, and blah blah blah. And it's like, well, they're literally wearing the same thing, so like what's going on here? And I remember hearing that there's, I think a fact that most Black women like experience sexual assault or harassment by the age of 18. And that's like crazy. Sorry, go
Yeah.
ahead.
Oh yeah, no, I was just gonna say I think like the call was misplaced, because I think really the problem really came in that people, because I kind of sort of followed it on TikTok a little bit, but I felt like the problem really came in is because yeah, okay, she was going to these adults only spaces, okay, sure, but the people who were showing up were like 30-year-old grown ass men who like took a shower, put on their flyest outfit, sprayed some cologne, and drove 45 minutes to come see some little girl, and they want, they want to, take pictures with her and hold her and all of the things. And so I think that was in fact creepy. You know what I mean? And I think like, I don't know what her parents were thinking, when that was happening, but it definitely was creepy, and they definitely needed to be checked about it. But the people that we really needed to be talking to was, why is your 30-year-old ass in the shower
Mhm.
driving an hour and a half to go see a 4-year-old dance? Like, that's weird, sir. Like, it's different if it's at a kid's birthday party or if there's
Yeah.
children involved or whatever. You're just a single ass grown man, you know what I'm saying, driving to go see a 4-year-old. Weird.
Well, and I
Yeah.
was going to say too, to kind of bounce off that, like what adult venue is allowing like this child to, because again, if it were like a little dance competition or like anything involving children, like, okay, understandable. But like, why is this adult venue having this little girl come in, essentially, from what we're hearing, is like dance for these grown men?
Money,
Like,
because they can charge extra. The club
yeah,
can charge
yeah,
money, and then people come in and then they probably drink because they're grown. That's money. Follow the money.
yeah,
That's
Mhm.
crazy.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And also, just kind of piggybacking on your comment about Black women being sexually assaulted by 18, I think that as a society, Black children aren't allowed to be children, like ever. Like ever. We had oh, what was the little boy in Ohio that the police did a drive-by on?
Tamir
Ty
Rice.
Tamir Rice. I think he was supposed to have his birthday just passed a few days ago.
He would have been
Yeah,
23.
yeah. Like children aren't just Black children specifically are just not allowed to be children. It's always like they're being too grown, they're being too fast. And societally, we're perceived as being older. We're perceived as, or at least we're told that we're perceived as being older. Because like my nephews are all like, I think the shortest one is like 6'2", but you can look at their face, and they've been tall their whole lives, but you can look at their faces and see that they're babies. Um,
Mhm.
so I think, as a society, we're trying to adultify Black children, but it's not it's not because they look older. It's because you just want to be able to criminalize and pathologize Black people. And so you're starting with Black children.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, because where I work, like the kids wear the little itty bitty running shorts and half tops, and this is at the elementary school, and that would not like it would completely violate dress code at any public school. They would be like, absolutely not. You know what I mean? And not because like cares or kids, they spend most of their time running around, and at any other school, it wouldn't be allowed, and it would be sexualized.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yep.
What a time. What a time.
Mhm.
Well, would we like to take our little break right now?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right. Well, that's the first hour, but the conversation doesn't stop here. These are the stories that follow us off the mic, into the salon, into the streets, into the systems. We're surviving. Take 10, grab a snack, refill your drink, and we'll be back to keep the truth flowing.
Bye.
Bye.